Thank you, Brume. Very brilliant there. Now, one more question before I, of course, hand over back to Waju. As I mentioned earlier, PO's manifesto is really rich. And should we get almost everything sorted in this, that's like our dream Nigeria. Now let's look at food crisis. Now the world as a whole, is bracing up for a looming food crisis. And I did see that, he touched agriculture a bit, relating to what goes on in and out of our border. Let's balance this. So we're talking about boosting agriculture. We're talking about making sure that, farming is something that is resuscitated. We don't run into a food shortage soon, because the rate at which it's going, insecurity from the north, people can go to farms, people can do anything. If you go to the market now, as a result of scarcity and shortage, there's inflation. Now, he's a couple of months away, as we hope, from being Nigeria's next president. How realistic is balancing inflation, making sure that the borders are open, and ensuring that there's food security? Because now, these things are beautiful as they seem, but putting in the work, on the other hand, is something that one should really, really look into strategically. How is this attainable within the first year or first 100 days of PO in office?
Okay, Stephanie, I love that question, because it would allow me say something that I feel is very important. Now, while we canvass for Peter Obi and Yusuf Dati to win the presidential elections, we must understand that growing pains exist when you're trying to transform a system, and they are coming with transformational leadership. Number two, we as citizens have a role to play. So we don't expect them to come with a magic wand to fix everything in 100 days, but I know that they are responsible enough to start the process. Now, it's possible, and that's why, again, it circles back to the first point on the manifesto, securing and uniting Nigeria. I said it earlier, when we're not secure, we cannot produce, we cannot have movement of goods and services, and then we cannot even be innovative in the sense that we cannot build, factories. Our manufacturing will continue to, of course, be redundant. But when people are safe, you have young people coming up with ideas. We have arable land in the north. As we produce crops, you have young people saying, hey, I can start a potato factory. I can start a tomato factory. I can start different staple foods, our rice factories, to turn our foods into different forms, exportable goods, and process them for local consumption as well. If we don't secure and unite, we can't work together. We have arable lands in the north, then we have very educated people, maybe down southwest, who have done a great job at, going to school and getting the necessary skills to be able to build and be productive and innovative. We have so many minerals that we can also manufacture and export, right? We have in the Southeast very budding entrepreneurial population. So if we can't unite, we can't maximize these potential and all our, talent or what God has blessed each region with, and fuse that together. So we must be secure first before we start saying, before me in Bayelsa will start saying, hey, I want to get fish from Edo State, like my husband's place now, they have lovely fish. I want to open a fish factory, Before me in Bayelsa, I would say, hey, potatoes grow a lot in Nasarawa. Can I, invest? Can I build a factory in Nasarawa? And this is me talking with people from other tribes and, religious affiliations, and we're able to do things together because we're safe and we understand that we're Nigerian first, and that is our own way of not just profiting off our system, but giving back, making things available for our people. So that is very important. That's why it comes first. It is so important. You can't underestimate the importance of security, because only when people are safe that they go about their business and we can build off of that. Then we start to talk about education, keeping our schools safe, then more people going back to school. It's cyclical, like I always say. So it's possible. It's possible, but while we put all the responsibility or majority of the responsibility on Peter Obi and Dati, you and I as citizens have a role to play. So they are winning the elections is just the beginning of the process. We too, how resilient we've been, we must maintain that resilience, come out and support Nigeria's development in our own way. I know many people in diaspora are willing to come back. Oh, I have this great idea. Well, I've been trying to pitch this idea to either Microsoft or AstraZeneca. I've been trying to pitch this idea to some great company, but I can take it home. My people actually need it. Maybe here, you know, they don't have that much room for more development. They've pretty much set their system rolling, but my people need it. I know people that are willing to come back with phenomenal ideas in fintech, in medicine, in agriculture. I know Nigerians, nobody knows this, but Nigerians own farms abroad, and they're able to automate their processes, you know, as farm owners. And I know people will be willing to come back and replicate the same. So once we can secure Nigeria, then we'll have that inflow. It's possible. Countries like Dubai were able to build their system within like 30 years to what it is today. So you can fuse that together. Tourism, all the resources we have, a budding and entrepreneurial population. It's unbelievable what we can achieve, but it starts with not just Peter Obi and Dati, but you and I as well, willing to also put in the effort and make it work, coming together, you know, making it work.
Thank you so much, Preye. Thank you. Brume, any words from you, or Preye has said it all?
No, I have some words in addition to what Preye said, right?
Okay.
And I know your questions are really centered on, you know, how possible it will be to achieve all the things stated in the manifesto, okay? Let's remember the manifesto is a plan, right? And, you know, in everything, you know, you want to do, you start by planning, right? In the manifesto itself, right, it says that Nigeria is suffering from elite capture, okay? We are ruled by elites that have no commitment to development, okay? So commitment is the word. You can have all the plans in the world, but without the commitment to implement them, your plans remain plans on paper, okay? We saw how long it took for the manifesto itself to come out. And in Peter Obi's own words, he said that he was preparing a document, right, that Nigerians will be able to hold him accountable to in the future. So he had to make sure that everything that was in that document were things that really came from him and things that he plans and hopes to achieve when he's the president of Nigeria, right? So I treat this document, you know, from that point of view, okay? Now, talking about agriculture, right? Peter Obi says that, you know, he wants to build a production-centered economy, right? You know, that's driven by an agrarian revolution and export-oriented industrialization. While it looks like big grammar, right? You know, we see the other side of what Peter Obi is saying here. I go to an African shop, all the gari is not made in Nigeria, it's made in Ghana. I go to an African shop, right? Almost everything, the beans, the rice, everything is imported from Ghana, right? What is the greatest population of Africans here? Nigerians. So we are unable to export food from Nigeria for Nigerians to consume abroad. We are going to Ghana to export because it's easier to do business and export from Ghana than Nigeria. If you ever try to export food from Nigeria, you understand what I'm talking about. It is very difficult, right, to export food simply because the Nigerian customs or whoever is at the gates, you know, cares more about Canada than Canadians. So they stop your export from leaving to a foreign country. Normally, the foreign country should be the one stopping your imports.
I'm worrying about the inflow,
Yes, but no. We in Nigeria, we care so much about other countries that we block exports from Nigeria. And so what has happened? People have shifted their attention to Ghana. All the African stores import food from Ghana. We have a very huge African store here, very organized, right? But it's owned by Ghanaians because it's easier for them to import stuff to stock their shops than for Nigerians to do so. So in terms of, you know, the manifesto being achievable, right? You know, Preye just said that, you know, the citizens have their role to play. I don't think it is the policy of the Nigerian customs to stop exports from leaving. but simply because these people, they only care about themselves and their families, right? They will stop your export just to extort you. And most of the time, their demands are very, very, inconsiderate, right? Such that you can't even make a profit after you've imported your stuff here. So people shift to Ghana. What happens? Nigerians in Nigeria cannot sell food to Nigerians abroad. It's very sad. The only way to buy food from Nigeria is for someone to put it as like their luggage, right? But there is a whole market in Nigeria that can be explored by Nigerians abroad. Forget about other nationalities, just Nigerians in the diaspora. But guess who is making that money? Ghanaians. So we need somebody who is just going to, be committed to implementation, okay? Make it easy for Nigerians to do business. Make it easy for people to go to the farms, right? And in terms of agriculture, right, he has said that he will make use of the comparative advantage of all the 36 states. That's big grammar, but I believe it. Why? Because Peter Obi is the only person I have watched on television interviews telling us the total land area of a state. I don't know the land area of different states in Nigeria, right? Peter Obi will tell you Borno has a total land area of so and so square kilometers. That kind of granular knowledge of the country shows that the person is prepared. Peter Obi talked about rivers feeding countries. He talked about how the River Nile, right, feeds Egypt and how Egypt will cease to exist without the Nile. Then he goes on to tell us exactly how long River Niger and Benue combined are. I don't know. Till tomorrow, if you ask me, I have to Google and check, right?
Yeah.
So talking about agriculture, right? He's not just talking about returning people to the farms, right? He's saying, let's use our rivers. We have vast arable land in the north. Let's make use of it, right? He has talked about dredging the River Niger, right? Doing that alone, right, opens up trade to a lot of states, right? Water transport and so many other advantages, right? Now, he has also said, as a matter of urgency, right, they're going to address, things like banditry, kidnapping, terrorism, desertification, and policies, right? These will take time, right? So I don't think we should expect any magic, but for me, if there's somebody who is competent and committed to following this plan, we might not achieve the entire plan, but if the plan is set in motion, any reasonable successor will continue with this path. And we hope that Peter Obi succeeds Peter Obi for, and he stays there for 8 years. So at least he can set the ball rolling. And, the mentality of the average Nigerian begins to change to see that, yeah, things are possible when somebody's working. So next time we want to elect somebody, we're going to be looking for somebody that will work. We're not going to be looking at tribe or religion or, party affiliation. We're going to be looking at the manifesto, the character, the pedigree of the person. And political parties will realize, okay, now we have to select the most competent, not the person with the highest amount of money, right? So sorry I have gone on a small tangent, right? But I'm just trying to paint a big picture here, right? So I think this manifesto can be achieved, okay? 100%, I don't know, but I think, a lot of things can be set in motion.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brume. Amazing. Thank you so much for your wonderful submission. And now, Waju, I hope you're still there.
Yeah, darling, I'm here. And really, I think it's just a very good night, listening to these two great minds and the way they've been able to, as much as possible, lead a bit by bit, analyze all of these very. For now, they've done a lot of justice to it. But guys, there's a particular question that I really want to throw at you both, and I hope you're ready for this. Mm-hmm. Now, Nigeria has never had a dearth of professionals handling different portfolios. Let's go back to 1999, for instance. In 2001, the late Bola Ige was the Minister of Power and Steel. And then you move a little bit, further. We've had people like Olusegun Agagu of blessed memory too from Ondo State. And then at the point we had a professor in Naji as Minister of Power. Mm-hmm. Now, if there's a major challenge that Nigeria has, apart from insecurity and all of those other things we've talked about, the fact that we can't have power is a major challenge. And a lot of people believe that if Nigeria as a nation can solve that, more than 50% of our challenges is probably solved. I'm going to ask you in simple terms. Do you think, let me carve it like this. What is the major threat to the realization of all the things encoded in that manifesto? I'll ask the question again, just in case you didn't get it. What is the major threat to the realization? Like I told you, we've had professionals occupy all of these offices, and it seems as if, despite their expertise, despite their exposure, they were not able to do much. So what do you think is the major threat to that? Let's start from Preye.
The major threat to that is the people. Why I said that is, when it comes to implementation of policies that will transform lives, we will begin to experience things that we have not seen before. Things like, research, intensive research that involves all of us. It might be disruptive. Let me put it that way. The transformation might be disruptive. And so if the people don't undergo a certain level of orientation, it will hinder the process. Case in point, this Naira policy. When it was the new Naira redesign policy, when it was announced, what the government should have done, like an active government should have ensured that programs were rolled out to explain the importance of the policy and how it affects the Nigerian people, so people can cooperate. So we see a situation where people are resorting to anarchy because they don't understand why the policy was necessary. However, if we have a national orientation agency, if they engage in every single policy that is rolled out for development, then people would understand, oh, okay, they want to dredge the River Niger. Those people who live in those communities will understand the importance of the dredging and why people need to come in and work in their communities. Simple instances like that. So the hindrance will be the people. If the people are not educated enough and are not given the proper awareness, then how do we get their cooperation? And that's why Peter Obi, why I like his candidacy is there's no disconnect between him and the people, as opposed to, what we have with the current political class, where people, they're just there, they do their thing, they sign contracts without proper research, surveys, no interaction with the people to identify their needs. They just move and do whatever they like. But the hindrance we'll face is the people. But Peter Obi has already consistently addressed that. And he has continued to say, even when he becomes president, he will be in touch with the people, could continue to be in touch with the Nigerian people, because Nigerians will come first in his government. Secondly, when I say the people, also the existence of cabals, we know that with Peter Obi, we don't have that. He has run a very independent campaign that has, that has successfully rid itself of, people who just want to benefit off of the system without any good intentions for the people in mind. So he's not going there to reward anybody, no political godfather, no bunch of people who brought money that are expecting rewards in return. He's going there to serve us, and that is the beauty of this ticket. The people come first. We pioneered the movement. We push the movement, and he's going there to be accountable to the masses before any elite. As Brume said, the elite grab that Nigeria is experiencing will gradually fade away. So the hindrances are also being addressed. We have been in some meetings with Peter Obi himself, and he continues to address it. He says where there's good leadership and where things are structured and everyone is aligned accordingly, and there's a plan and there's purposeful leadership, people will start to fall in line, and those who don't fall in line will fall off the radar. So it's kind of it's a domino effect that we hope would occur after his emergence as president. But I'm very sure that with his purposeful leadership, all those shortcomings will be addressed. The hindrances will be taken care of. Like I said, human beings are adaptable. And he says it all the time as well. Human beings are adaptable. Give them good leadership and guide them, and you will be surprised how those people you think are maybe irresponsible or incapable of, doing the right thing will automatically become responsible, and they'll be guided ethically. And you see even the basic, I would not to sound insulting, but even an illiterate will be able to fall in line where there's proper guidance. So I know he has addressed that, and that's the major thing. Once Nigerians can get that reorientation and understand how the development affects us, what side effects we might experience in the process, and how those things will be dealt with, you see people will fall in line, people in the markets, people with the rivers, people in the farms, people in the corporate sector, everybody will start to align, right? So yes.
Thank you, Preye. Let me go over to Brume now. Brume, I just have this question. We're supposed to be done or to be rounding off now because we are like more than an hour into the show, and we have some other things to also engage after now. So let me come to you, Brume. This is a nation. I'm not sure you can find a clinic, or let me say a health facility across Nigeria that is world standards, particularly the ones owned by the states. I'll say that again.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you can find a single health facility that is of world standards owned by the states in Nigeria. Now, one of the states that people have actually talked about has been very developed is Lagos State, and we have a major contender from that environment who has actually claimed that he tamed the Pacific Ocean or the Atlantic Ocean and it developed Lagos into what it looks like today. You as an oil and gas person, who is also an engineer, one way or the other, and who is a young Nigerian, how do you feel that you have an assertion from a man like that, and that you live in an environment that works, and you try your best to marry the two in terms of what he said and what you have seen? How do you feel as a young Nigerian who is actually advancing your thinking? How do you feel? And again, the second question to you is simple: is this? How do you feel about the Obidient movement now that you think? Do you feel happy that in your time and your life, a time came that Nigerian youth said, of the evolution that we've got to fight for their nation? I mean, how do you feel being a young Nigerian yourself?
Okay, so starting from healthcare, I would say that healthcare in Nigeria is very, very disappointing. When I was in Nigeria, I think I had access to the best hospitals. And at the time, they seemed world-class. Like I remember, one of my family members, doing a surgery at Reddington Hospital. Okay, now, fast forward to a few years later, right? I lived in Angola for a while, right? Angola is comparable to Nigeria because we are kind of the top two oil producing countries on the continent. Okay, we have similar land area, although they have like less than half of our population, actually less than a quarter of our population in Angola, right? The hospitals I saw in Angola were world-class buildings, okay, but not world-class people. So the average Angolan tells you, look, you pray you don't fall sick. You don't want your child to go to the hospital because they may not come back. And it happened to quite a few people, okay? Thinking about Nigeria, okay, when we're in Angola, we said, hey, we wish we were back home because we know wherever we are, be it Port Harcourt or Lagos, for our kids, for example, we had access to good pediatric care. We could take our kids to the hospital, right? And if we didn't like that one, we had some other ones to go to, right? The buildings were not world-class, but the doctors in those establishments were good enough to inspire confidence, okay? Now I'm talking about me. I had access to like great health insurance and stuff like that, right? I did go to a government hospital once before traveling, to get like a medical checkup done, and I still remember, there were not enough doctors, so everybody was in a big hall, right? The consulting was done with the doctor in front, and you get to your turn, and they ask you questions and you answer in front of the crowd behind you, right? I still remember them interviewing a lady who had an STD, and she had to answer the questions in front of everybody, right? So after seeing all these things, and then I moved to, I lived in Abu Dhabi for a while, and you could walk into any hospital. Health insurance was compulsory for everybody. If you hire a housemaid, you have to provide health insurance for her. So everybody who lived in that country could walk into a hospital and ask to see a cardiologist, ophthalmologist, gynecologist. Like, there was no wait. You just walked in and you saw these people, world-class buildings, world-class everything, right? So forgive me if I'm not impressed when people talk about some hospitals in Nigeria and say we built world-class, or we have health centers, some tiny huts that they build in the village and say now we have health centers, right? Few of those things impress me because I know that Nigeria could be a lot better when it comes to healthcare. And Peter Obi has said that one way to address this, right, in addition to government funding, right, is to increase the National Health Insurance Scheme uptake. Okay, I don't think people really believe in healthcare. So at the basic healthcare level, the poorest people in Nigeria don't have health insurance. Okay, so this is going to take education, like Preye said. You know, we need to educate Nigerians on the fact that, you know, you shouldn't always have to pay out of your pocket to get healthcare. Instead, it's better if you're a poor person to pay 50 naira per week, for example, to your health insurance, and to go there when you are sick and get treated, you know, because you have a health insurance policy, right? Now, that is going to increase funding to the hospitals. You know, here we say that insurance is a scam, right? It is just a quote. Why? Because when you come as a foreigner to pay out of pocket, right, sometimes you pay 50% less than what we pay, what they bill the insurance companies, okay? But that's the reason why healthcare is awesome. You know, I had chest pain the other day. You know, I went to a walk-in clinic. I knew I didn't have a heart issue. I had done some heavy lifting, and I knew it was muscular. But as soon as I mentioned chest pain, 10 minutes later, I was on a stretcher being pushed to an ambulance. And I'm like, hey guys, I drove here, you know, but I was taken to the hospital. And that day, right, I realized if I was dying and my wife called the hospital, in 5 minutes, they'll be at my house. I'll be on the stretcher with in the ambulance, they had all the ECGs, they were taking my blood. They started working on me in the ambulance. I was shouting, I said, hey guys, I am well. They said, you have chest pain, right? That's a sign of a heart attack. So we'll treat it as a heart attack until we prove otherwise, right? From the time I went to the clinic to the time I was discharged as not having an issue was 2 hours only. And I was out of the hospital. And I thought, if I were in Nigeria and I had this kind of problem, my family would probably put me in the backseat of the car and drive me through traffic to the first place. And they will say, there's no cardiologist here, no ECG here, and drive me to the second place, to the third place. So to solve the healthcare issue, right, apart from, you know, Peter Obi's plans to increase, you know, health insurance and government funding, you know, and encouraging PPP, you know, initiatives and stuff like that, right, you know, the thing that they need to do, for example, is to make sure that healthcare is run as a successful business, not as an option that, you know, exists for people to only go when they are sick and nobody really cares. It has to be run as a successful business, right? Thank God Peter Obi is a successful businessman. Now, so I'm not impressed with Nigeria's healthcare system, but the good thing is we have all the buildings already. All we have to do is to renovate them and put equipment and try to convince some Nigerian doctors to start returning, because almost everybody has left the country. All my classmates that read medicine, almost all are out. My younger brother is a doctor, he's out. We need to get those people back in, right? And these people are watching Nigeria now because they want to come back. Every day I go to visit my fellow Nigerians here, we all talk about how we want to come back. There is no country as fantastic as Nigeria. Our lifestyle in Nigeria is second to none, regardless of how stressful it is. When you leave, you realize that we have a lifestyle that people go on vacation to experience. We already have it. So it's something worth fighting for. And that's why everybody abroad is watching, is looking. And you can see majority of the people here support Peter Obi for the very reason that they believe that he's the one that will make Nigeria suitable for them to return to the country, right? Regarding the Obidient movement, look, you know, I'm detached from the outcome of the election, right? I am proud of the fact that there is a movement now that is demanding that we have the right leaders, right? I'm proud of the fact that now we have a choice, not between two evils, but between, you know, a candidate that is loved and appreciated and respected by the people and the other evils, right? And I'm happy that I'm on the side of good. And I'm happy that majority of Nigerians are on the side of good. I'm proud of the Obidient movement, and I hope it continues even after Peter Obi wins the election, or regardless of the outcome. I hope the movement continues as a vehicle to demand good governance from the government. Because if Peter Obi does not perform well, the Obidient movement will be the first to protest, I believe, because we put in so much energy to convincing Nigerians the right person. So if he does not do well, we are the first people that will protest, you know, against Peter Obi and demand that he remembers the promises he made and tries his best to fulfill them. We will not make any excuses.
All right, ladies.
Sorry.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Brume and you know, Preye, for coming on the show. I know that you are both very busy people, and we also have a few things to do, you know, after now. So I'm just going to. Is Stephanie there? Stephanie, are you there? I want to believe that my co-host is there, so that. Okay, yes. Stephanie, maybe you can take over from me. So in the next couple of minutes, we should just round up the whole conversation.
Yeah, sorry, I'd like to add, you asked a question to Brume before you wrap up. You asked about one of the aspirants saying he's the next, he's the best in sliced bread, and you know, he discovered Nigeria in the 14th century. We all know the history of Nigeria and how Nigeria was. And Lagos State used to be the capital of Nigeria before it was moved. Yeah, before at the point it was the Cross River, and then at the point it was Abuja. But Lagos State has a strategic position. It has the busiest ports in Nigeria. We are facing the Atlantic. So Lagos State has the economic activity naturally from the private sector. It is expected with almost every city in the world that has a port presence, has vibrant economic activity, has nothing to do with some person's magical hold on the Lagos. You know, Tinubu's Lagos. Lagos is supposed to be much better than it is because we have the population, we have the number of educated and skilled workforce in Lagos. We have the presence of multinationals. So yes, it's good, but it can be better. And what people don't understand with capital cities is when they're like that, they can be actually much better. Cities like Lagos or states like Lagos shouldn't even have a power issue, but then we still have those things like you know, intermittent power interruption existent and stuff like that. So please, any aspirant that gives himself glory for the history of Nigeria, well, you might as well just say you discovered the entire continent of Africa. So we're not going to go into that. It's for me, I call it bullocks, a lot of garbage, all the self-acclaimed, I made this, I made that, you made so many people but yourself. You know, there's a lot of questions to be put forward to such individuals. They are questionable character. And that is why I love the Peter Obi's manifesto principle, not just printed some documents and made it available. He's been able to verbalize every single aspect of the manifesto as against other candidates, as you can see. As Brume said, we're not dealing with an election where we're choosing the best of the evils, but we're choosing capacity, we're choosing competence, we're choosing integrity. We have somebody finally with a track record that we can make reference to and say, okay, we're going to build off of this, or we're going to vote for you based on what you have done with the little you were given. So yeah, nobody has a right to claim any geopolitical zone or any state, local government, whatever in Nigeria as theirs, or owning that region personally. The land in Nigeria belongs to every Nigerian, and we're all Nigerian first. And I believe that with Peter Obi's candidacy, we'll be able to read this elite capture that we're experiencing. It's overwhelming, but I know we can do it.
Thank you so much, Preye. And it looks like we'll be rounding up, in a couple of seconds. But I would not end the show without giving, due respect and recognition to you both. You have done a good job, for the Obidient movement, particularly on IG as our major debaters, on that particular show known as the Clash of Supporters Debate. And what a job you have done. I particularly feel proud to know that we have young Nigerians who are not only flying the flag very highly, but they are also doing well in their own chosen profession. So kudos to you, Preye and Brume. But before we leave on the show tonight, I just want, more like a piece of advice, not just to the Obedience, but to Obi and Dati themselves, the two of them. For instance, however brilliantly captured their manifesto might be, that would definitely be one or two things that you notice, they didn't really encode very well, or that you felt like they could have done better. And this actually goes to the two of you. So if you were to advise them now, should they win this election, or let me say, when they win this election, what areas of their manifesto would you want them to work, on in order for them to be able to deliver the deliverables to Nigerians that voted them in? Let's start from you, Preye. I just take your lead.
Okay, so I really haven't sat down to critique the manifesto because I strongly believe it covers the most pertinent issues that we have now. Maybe a better explanation as to how they intend to implement their educational policies and the leapfrogging, into the fourth industrial revolution. But definitely, I don't expect all explanations to exist on a manifesto. Time will come when they're sworn into office and they start to roll out policies and plans and propose processes to get these things done. And that's when we can have a bigger view or a larger view of every part of this manifesto. But I would say because of, Nigerians and how we need to bring things down to their level of reasoning, we might need to do a little work in explaining things like the fourth industrial revolution, how we can go from consumption to production, in layman's language, so that, like I said, citizens can really understand their role in development. So there's work to be done, and we're willing to put in that work. I would say him winning is the beginning of the work that needs to be done. And most of us in the Obidient movement are more than happy to continue to hound and expand and explain these things, launch a massive reorientation campaign, continue to talk to people, dialogue, if possible, translate this message into multiple languages so people can really, really understand the nitty-gritty of things while those policies are being, established and rolled out for the benefit of Nigerians. So yes, it's not easy to capture developmental issues that are written in our lingua franca, which is English, and now break it down into the layman's language, which, like I said, we have work to do with that. But I feel like the manifesto has done its best to cover the most pertinent issues.
Thank you, Preye, and I can't wait to see you in Nigeria when Obi has won the election.
Of course,
we're having a special ball for all the Obidient across.
For sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
On the show. Let's go to Brume as he gives his own parting shot regarding the question. Brume.
Yeah. I have I identified something I would have loved to see in the manifesto, right? Even though the manifesto does talk about enhancing our domestic growth strategies by leveraging on Nollywood and entertainment, I don't see much mentioned about tourism, right? And I think that's one sector that has been undervalued in Nigeria, because there are things that we have in Nigeria. Trust me, if we had them in a country like Canada, nobody will rest. Like, they will make noise and make noise and make noise about those things from now till tomorrow. And people will troop there in their numbers. During the summer, we pay money to go into some parks, and there's nothing in the park. We're just walking through the forest. We walk through the forest and
taking pictures.
Yeah, while I was in Nigeria, right, there's so many places I went to, right? When I think about those places, right, I realize how undervalued tourism is. I went to, for example, Erinjesha waterfall. That waterfall is fantastic, but there is no way for a normal person to climb to the top because it's very treacherous. You know, you have to crawl sometimes. You know, in a place like this, they would have built something for people to climb. That waterfall has 7 different levels, right? The people who primarily go there are students from Ife to just go have parties at the bottom level. But that waterfall is beautiful. I went to Ikogho see warm spring. If we had a warm spring in Ontario here, Preye, you know now. You know? And then the adjoining industry, aviation, okay? Just look at look at the map and see where Nigeria is, okay? We are in a position to be the transportation hub of the entire West Africa, maybe even Africa. Because when you fly to Nigeria, you're going straight across. When you're going, like, our position is very unique. Right. And it's something we already have the infrastructure. Look at the amount of airports we have in Nigeria that are all operating at a very, very subpar level compared to other airports in other parts of the world. Right. So there's no reason why our national airline should not be as big as Ethiopian or even as big as Emirates. Right. Because Nigeria has had the resources over the years to have that kind of airline. Right. And there is demand. There is a lot of demand for travel, even as hard as things are. Nigerians still travel, even if it's Nigerians coming, even if it's travel back to Nigeria, right? If, you know, the economy is secure and people feel comfortable to come back, the millions of us that have left will come and visit. Every time there's a vacation, for example, the Indian here will go back to India, okay? But the Nigerians don't go back to Nigeria because it's not safe, right? So we go elsewhere. So just imagine fixing aviation and tourism. All the people here that, you know, are trying to find their roots and they go and do the whole DNA thing and they find out I'm half Nigerian. What's the next logical step? Normally will be to visit Nigeria. But the moment they try, they see travel advisories that say, hey, don't go there, right? So in line with the question about reputation, right? You know, after building reputation, right, I expected the manifesto to talk about tourism because that is a major sector where we are losing out. People need to come and spend their US dollars in Nigeria, right? Nigerians will be beneficiaries of that spend, right? As well as that, within West Africa, I know we talked about, you know, paying attention to the ECOWAS region, securing borders, you know, and playing a leadership role. But the manifesto talks mainly about ECOWAS, right? We need to look beyond West Africa and look at free trade across the whole of Africa.
Whole continent, yeah.
Yeah, this agrarian exports industrial revolution that Peter Obi is trying to initiate, right? You know, we are uniquely positioned as a country to supply a lot of other countries, things from food to manufactured products to cars and so many things. We need free trade across all the borders, not just in West Africa, but around. And we need Nigeria to play a key role in making sure that, you know, there is free transport across, right? Now we have the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. There was also some economic partnership for African development or something, right? Like all these things are nice on paper, right? I hope, you know, as part of Peter Obi's foreign policy, right, you know, they take the, you know, position of the leader and try to make sure that within Africa, we return to our position as superpower and we try to initiate free trade and transportation. I don't think we should focus on securing our borders. All the African nations around us, we are the same. So I don't think we're doing much better than others. Yes, you know, we should not allow, you know, people to just come in and leave, right? There should be some mechanism to prevent people from just walking in and hovering around the country, you know, aimlessly, right? but we should focus on free transportation. I should be able to go to Ghana, other countries easily, buy and sell across these borders, right? We are already positioned to be the highest beneficiary of trade. So there will be no imbalance as far as I'm concerned. The imbalance will be, the imbalance will be to the detriment of the other countries, right? So I think, maybe they already have a plan, but tourism, our borders, travel, aviation, things that involve making use of our strategic position, right, as a trade, transport, and tourism hub. I didn't see a very clear plan in the manifesto, but they are mentioned, they're not ignored, right? But maybe, to distill them a bit more, I guess, Peter Obi will get competent people from these fields, right, to initiate proper plans, because we have ministries and departments that handle these things. So I guess properly staffing those, parastatals will help to come up with a more robust plan to tackle these things I just mentioned.
Yeah.
Wow.
And in addition to what you said, Brume, just one last thing. It still boils down to getting our immigration right, and the manifesto doesn't exactly detail that. So yes, all these things also include a strong immigration, arm in Nigeria. We don't have that, and a strong immigration institution. We need to really fix that. We have people who obtain our citizenship by simply just paying a fee and not earning it. We have foreigners operating businesses without proper work permits and proper, permission to operate those businesses or enterprises. We need to fix that and also be able to benefit off of immigration. Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better pair to join me on the show tonight. I mean, you guys did absolutely beautifully well on the show. Thank you so much, Preye Obozuwa,
Thank you,
for coming
Waju.
on the show. Such an honor to engage such a brilliant mind as yours. And just in case the Nigerians, are thinking of who Preye is. Preye is actually a clinical researcher expert, and she's been doing it for a while. And she's also one of the major voices, what I call diasporan voices, in support of the Obidient movement. Thank you for coming on the show tonight. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you so much.
Another special mention was made of the gentleman who actually came in well prepared, but also very gentlemanly in his approach, allowing the lady to go first. Thank you, Brume Ikogho, for coming on the show. And thank you for your beautiful submission. It was really an honor to have such a brilliant mind join us on the show today.
Thank you very much. Right. When with myself and Preye are gathered, she will always go first. She's my leader. So
no,
okay, Nigerians. I'm sure you all guys had fun listening to these great minds today. It's been an enjoyable session with them, and I can bet it with you that the next edition of this show will actually be much, much more interesting than you've had tonight. My name is Waju Akin-Emmanuels, and I've been your host alongside my co-host, who had a little technical glitch, while the show was on. At the moment, she's not here, but hopefully, the next edition she'll be here to make sure that the show is actually more fun than it was tonight. Again, join us again on New Deal next time. Until then, my name is Waju Akin-Emmanuels, and I bid you a very beautiful day. Have fun.